Welcome, brothers and sisters. My name is Eros and I am the Soul Maker. In the previous episode, we have analyzed the basic correspondences and the basic approach toward the festivity of Samhain. In this episode, we will try to get on a more intermediate level, analyzing different activities, more, if you want, advanced activities. For example, the activity of dressing up or masking as spirits. Why should we do something like that in a ritual environment? Of course, we should do something like that to facilitate our contact with spirits, especially with our ancestors or with the dead. In a sense, masking up or dressing up as spirits, as the dead, is in a way to blend in, to facilitate being part of the group. Now, of course, depending on what spirits we are calling forth, if we decide to do so, because of course we need different dresses for different occasions, just like we will dress in a different way for a party and for a wedding, for example. We also find in a different way the same practice in different tradition. For example, in the cult of the northern gods, we find in some cases practitioner covering themselves in mud. In a sense, this is a return to the earth, connecting with our ancestors through the same earth in which one day we shall return. But in the African tradition, in some cases, we find practitioners covering themselves in ashes, recovering what remains, but also representing being burned down to ashes, so the end of the life, once the fire is extinguished, to better connect with our ancestors. In a sense, these two different traditions are both, in a strange way, a way to dress up for a funeral, if you want. Now, we should remember in this practice that we are not dressing up for a party. This is not Halloween. This is a festivity. This is a serious celebration. But there's absolutely nothing wrong in dressing up for Halloween, to go to a party. It's just a completely different thing, and we should keep these two things separated. We dress in a way, as we said before, for a ritual environment, and we dress in a completely different way to simply go to party. There's nothing wrong, but we should keep those two things separated. Now, let's talk about a completely different activity that in this season could be extremely important. That is your grimoire review. So we are going to review our grimoire. If you want to analyze our path until now, to even correct old mistakes, but even better to recognize patterns that we have followed, to foresee our future and to better direct our path in the future. Of course, I completely understand, especially if you have just started to study, that analyzing your first works could be a little embarrassing. There's completely nothing wrong. We still need to reanalyze our work to better understand our path going forward. Now, we also said, if I am not mistaken, in the previous video that this festivity is a dark and nostalgic time. This could also be a suggestion on what works we should do. For example, the nostalgic adjective may refer to the fact that we need to work with our ancestors, not only through offerings, but also through communication performed through meditation and trance-like states. Or if you ask them to do so, to have a better connection, even through dreams. So we want to work with them to better understand the teachings of our lineage, and of course, in some cases, we may feel more present those ancestors, those family members that have hurted us. In this case, try to go even backwards. Try to connect with those ancestors that are more related to you, more connected to you. Find your connection through meditation and trance to gain the favor, to gain the blessing in our life path. So basically you want to get in contact to learn. And on the opposite side, the dark adjective of the season reminds us that we are in this festivity and in this period walking into darkness, walking with darkness, mainly through shadow work that we should always remember to practice, especially in this season. But we also need to remember not to get lost into darkness. We want to be just like the hermit of the major arcanas, of the tarot cards, holding the lantern. And through this balance between our inner darkness and our profound light, we should try to find a balance to brighten our lives through our exploration of our inner darkness, or the dark realms we want to explore, even through astral travel. Or we may even, in the opposite sense, try to recover and discover in the darkness more and new profound teachings that we can integrate in ourselves, and of course in turn into our light, the light we shine, the light we expose. Then of course, in this last quarter of the year, you may want to recur to divination for the next and last quarter, for the last turn of the year, if you want. So you may want to do a general reading for the coming up year, or even the last period of the year, if you don't feel sure yet to do a complete year general reading. They of course will be very complex game, so you may want to split your readings for the upcoming year into quarters and then reanalyze them as the festivities continue to follow each other's. Now, of course, as in any intermediate video, we should discuss if you want to prepare a feast. You may also want to build up a bonfire as always, I need you to be extremely careful if you decide to work with open flames. Remember that in this season we are trying to reach the spirits we want to communicate with halfway, not on the other side, diving into the flame. So please be extremely careful. Then, another activity, another way of practicing magic that we may want to recover in this season is cauldron magic, for our practice to refresh our rapport with the meaning of the cauldron itself. Now, we need to remember in this case that we find in cauldron magic the correspondences of life through the food that we gain from the cauldron, at least in a canonic sense. We find a correspondence following to death for the ingredients that we are boiling or roasting in this case, and we find a correspondence to resurrection for our body renewal obtained through the food that we prepare on the cauldron. Of course, this is best represented in kitchen magic. Lastly, as a correspondence of the season, we need to take in consideration the three aspects of the feminine nature. In this case, we may want to even analyze them as the three aspects of the moon, which of course are the maiden, the mother, and the crone. And of course, this season is more related to the crone or the matron, as you prefer. So the dark aspect of our intrinsic feminine nature that she is suggesting us, of course, to invest in our knowledge, especially through listening. She is reminding us of death through and especially the meaning of death. The meaning of death is the end of our lifetime. And so, of course, the meaning of life is that it ends, and we should always remember the teaching of Carpe Diem. Take your time, the time you've got left, into your hands and use it. And lastly, the aspect of the matron is reminding us to observe, to understand, not only listen. Also, we are trying to steal experience with our eyes, with our careful observation. Then, for my pagan brothers and sisters, I strongly recommend you to reflect on the figure of Loki and the nature of Loki, studying him to understand his reason, trying to get to the point in which you can understand that he is pursuing change at any cost, even through chaos. But you may want to work with different dark, obscure goddesses and gods. You may want to pursue your study of those entities, of those gods, studying the sagas, studying the information you got at your disposal, and try to and better understand them, their motive, their reasons, why they act as they do. For my brothers and sisters with a more hermetic approach, I will suggest to work to better try to understand the teaching of your ancestors and the dark gods. So try to get a better connection to your elders of any sort from both parts of the veil through the study of the grimoires and your books, and trying to contemplate those studies, those books, where they belong in their time frame. Try to take in consideration the life of the author, for example, to better understand why he or she has talked about those teachings, those gods in that time frame, in that period, during her life or his life, of course. For my Christian brothers and sisters, remember to honor the dead. Try to recover in your path walking the veneration of the saints, and you may even want to walk with Saint Peter in the Christian tradition, the one who holds the gate. For brothers and sisters of the silver iris, try to find balance in your pursuit of knowledge, especially in this dark period. Try to find a way to choose the path for your specialization that is calling for you. Honor your ancestors, of course, honor the gods, and remember to honor any entity that you work with, including your marionette, if you are granted one. Explore this darkness following your light. Then, for brothers and sisters of the Crimson Claw, of course, in this time frame you are at the top of your power, but please do remember that balance is essential to avoid extremes. We are trying to dwell in the darkness in this period without getting lost. You should always try to follow your light, not to get lost into the light just like a moth. Then, for brothers and sisters of the path of the dreamer, try to work as hard as you can to empower your meditation. Practice your astral travel in this time of opening of the gates to make even better the quality of your own skills of any sort, especially those of meditation and introspection. Because, of course, for everyone, now I'm talking for everyone, we are in a period of opened gates. So we should try to be very careful while we work with these empowered contact techniques. And of course, if you work with the face, you should be especially careful, because of course in these dark times we tend to attract more mischievous or entities or tricksters, if you want. So you need to be especially careful. Now, of course, because this time frame allows us for great contacts, empowered contacts. So at the same time, please do remember to ground yourself. Also, on the same note, since we are probably trying to work with communication with external entities on the other side of the veil, please also do remember that when we practice evocation or invocation, we are always trying not only to listen with our reasoning. We are not only trying to understand, we are also trying to feel those entities, get in better contact with them and their emotions. So let me steal the words of the amazing Electric Cowboy, out of context of course. I hear your voice that runs out of tune. I'm floating in the haze of your perfume. We are working not only with our reasoning, but also with our intuition. We are diving into an instinctive level if you want to better our understanding and our relation with those entities we work with. And of course, again, please do remember to ground. Now, if you want to get deeper into the rabbit hole, I will wait for you in the next video, probably coming up tomorrow, which will be the advanced one. Otherwise, I deeply thank you for your kind attention, and may eternal lights shine upon you.